The Dhammapada, verses 38 and 39. To the vigilant, there is no fear. Anavattita chittassa saddhammang avijanato pariplava pasadassa panyana paripurati anavassuta chittassa ananvahata chetaso punya papa pahinassa nathi jagarato bhayan. He whose mind is not steadfast, he who knows not the true doctrine, he whose confidence wavers, the wisdom of such a one will never be perfect. He whose mind is not soaked by lust, he who is not affected by hatred, he who has transcended both good and evil, for such a vigilant one there is no fear. The fickle-minded monk, Chitta Hatta. A man from Savatthi, after looking for his lost ox in the forest, felt very hungry and went to a village monastery, where he was given some food to eat. While taking his food, it occurred to him that even though he worked very hard every day, he could not get such good food, and that it might be a good idea to become a monk. So he asked the bhikkhus to admit him into the order. At the monastery he performed the duties of a bhikkhu, and as there was plenty of food, he soon gained weight. After some time, he got weary of going around for alms food, and returned to the life of a layman. A few days later, he felt that life at home was too strenuous, and he went back to the monastery to be admitted as a bhikkhu for a second time. For a second time he left the order and returned to home life. Again he went back to the monastery for a third time and left it. This shuttling process went on for 6 times, and because he acted only according to his whims, he was known as Chitta Hatta. While he was going back and forth between his home and the monastery, his wife became pregnant. He was actually not ready for renunciation, but he joined the order for his convenience. As a result, he was not happy either as a monk or as a layman. One day, during his last stay at home, he happened to enter the bedroom while his wife was asleep. She was fast asleep, snoring loudly, and saliva was trickling down her mouth. Seeing her with her mouth open, he realized the unpleasant nature of the body, and he reflected, "I have been a bhikkhu for several times, but I have not been able to remain in the robe because of my attraction for this woman." Hence, taking the yellow robe with him, he left his home for the monastery for the 7th time. As he went along, he repeated the words impermanence and unsatisfactoriness, and thus attained the first stage of sainthood on the way to the monastery. On arrival at the monastery, he requested the bhikkhus to admit him into the order. They refused and said, "We cannot admit you any more. You have been shaving your head so often that your head is like a wedding stone." Since he persisted with his request, the bhikkhus relented, and he was readmitted into the order. Within a few days, Chitta Hatta attained arahanthood. Other bhikkhus, seeing him staying on for a long time in the monastery, were surprised, and they asked him the reason. He replied, "I went home when I still had attachment in me, but now the attachment has been cut off." The bhikkhus reported the matter to the Buddha, who replied, "Chitta Hatta's mind was not steadfast at that time, and he did not understand the Dhamma. But now he is already an arahant. He has discarded all his attachments." A note from the author. It might be asked whether Chitta Hatta was wrong in having abandoned his wife. We must understand this story from a historical viewpoint. In India, at the time of the Buddha, it was considered quite honorable for a man to give up the worldly life and take to the monastic life at any time. The social structure was such that other members of the family would willingly care for the wife and the child because the husband had made a big sacrifice in becoming a holy man.